Welcome back to another episode of Limitless MD. I'm your host, Vikram Raya, and I'm here with my main man, Akash. Akash, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Vikram. Really looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. What if you could reclaim hours of free time each week, create legacy building wealth, and devote more energy to your passion projects without giving up on your career as a life-saving MD? My name is Vikram Raya, functional cardiologist, high-performance coach, and real estate expert. And I'm here to give you the tools, strategies, and solutions you need to transform your life so you can unlock your limitless potential and achieve greatness, all the while freeing up your precious time. Welcome to Limitless MD. Let's dive in. So guys, Akash is joining me from across the pond. He's in the United Kingdom. He is a professional bodybuilder, as you guys know. He is the founder and CEO of RNT Fitness. And this is a program that I went through that literally changed my physique, my body, energy. And this is not because I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I've worked out most of my life. I've done Spartans, Tough Mudders, but there's something about the accountability, the organization, and just the inspiration and motivation to do it in such a precise way that I got explosive results. So let me ask you this, Akash. The typical people who listen to this podcast are high performers. They're doctors, they're professionals. They're already doing so well. Why is their health the last thing that sometimes it falls through the cracks?
Yes, it's a great question. It's because most of us, we follow that false economy of using, we think we're busy. We think we've got lots of things to get on with. So going to the gym suddenly becomes a waste of time. Prepping your meals suddenly becomes a waste of time. Going for a walk is considered a waste of time because you could be using those hours to see patients, to work on your business, to drum up business, whatever it may be. So we see it as a waste, and it becomes a false economy because all that ends up happening is you actually become less productive, less energetic, you have less clarity of thought, and all that extra time you saved from quote unquote working or quote unquote working more, you're actually losing because of your productivity is going down and your quality of work is diminishing as well. And I think in many high performers, it's only until we have a crisis moment or some sort of trigger moment that we think actually health and fitness is important. And then once we unlock it, there's no way you can go back, right? If I said to you, Vikram, yeah, stop going to the gym now, let's stop prepping your meals and let's stop going for walks, you tell me I'm crazy because you probably know that this is not a waste of time. This is actually business development time. If you're optimizing your mind, you're optimizing your body, it's actually business development. It's working on the business because you are your number one asset in the business. Without you, there is no business. Without you being your best doctor, your patients are going to suffer. So the way I frame it now, and the way I teach it to high performers is, this is business development time. Or if you're not a business owner, this is career development time. There's no better asset than yourself. And if you can prime your mind, body, your soul, and tune it to where you want it to be, everything else is going to be better.
Oh my God, that was awesome, man. This is the pros I got from this, guys. It's really, the success nowadays for all of us high performers out there is energy management. And the genesis of energy is health. And health is a choice. It is a strategy. It's not something that's casual. So people who are high performers, they're actively resting. They're actively doing things to propel their health forward. And the fact that we're thinking about taking a walk, working out, people think of that as like, man, I have to take time away from my career, my work, my family to do that. No, this is allowing you to be much more productive in those times. And it's career development and business development. I love that.
But think about when you come up with your best ideas. It's like when you're in the shower, or it's when you're having a good conversation. Like today, for example, I did a couple hours of work and then I went to do some cardio. And as I was on the stepper doing my cardio, I was like, oh yeah, that's the thing I've been trying to crack for so long. Oh, I need to tell my team this because this is going to improve the system so much for XYZ. And I wouldn't have had that if I was stuck on my laptop just bashing away at the keys, right? You need to almost take a step away from it. And when your body is moving in a very automatic way, like things like cardio or walking, where you're not thinking too much about, you don't have to think about how to walk, right? We just walk. But when your body's moving, it allows your mind and your body, your yourself to tap into your subconscious. And that's where the ideas start coming out of nowhere. And that's where your best thinking comes as well. So I think we have to, once we have a few of those eureka moments, we start realizing that actually time on the laptop or time in our notebooks or whatever is great, but we should have done a lot of the thinking and the strategic stuff outside. And for me and for yourself and so many other high performers who've cracked this, it's in the gym, it's in the showers, it's coming out of a nap, it's having the full night's sleep. It's not sacrificing, you're not burning the midnight oil, because all of these things are important. And like you said, energy management is the hardest thing, right? It's not how many hours in the day you have, it's like how many productive hours can we get, and how can we sustain a real high level of energy throughout the day. And one of the things I do to make it not even a decision, and we can touch on decision fatigue if you want, but is installing these as non-negotiables at the start of every week. So for me, I know every day there's an hour booked in the diary for training or cardio or walking.
So let me just jump in there because I want to stack onto that. So this non-negotiable theory is actually my next question. I was like, you've helped hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world, not just in the US, the UK, but all over the world. So it's a universal strategy that works for those that are really motivated, and it helps transform their health and their body, but involves these non-negotiables. And you talk about in your book, what's the name of your book so everyone can pick it up on Amazon?
Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life.
Yeah. This book, literally, he's giving everything away in the book. The information there is so valuable. And you talk about the non-negotiables, like such as the water, the weights. Can you share with the audience here, what are the basic non-negotiables?
Yeah, it's super simple. 3 to 5 45-minute training sessions with resistance training. But again, that's if you enjoy weight training. For someone else, it could be anything else. 3 to 5 resistance training sessions, a nutrition plan that's automated and something you just follow every day. 8 to 10,000 steps a day, 2 to 3 liters of water minimum, and 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Those are like the basic core fundamental habits. And then you just need to identify them as non-negotiable principles for your week, block them in your diary, get it done first thing, especially if you're a high performer that's busy, because if you try and do it in between, try to squeeze it in between a meeting at between 2 and 3 p.m., you're probably going to get caught up with something. Do it first thing, get it in the diary, put it non-negotiable, make that commitment, and then it just slowly becomes entrenched as a way of life.
So a lot of people know these principles and they're not rocket science, but they're so basic. And we sometimes get into the habit of the law of familiarity. We feel like something is so familiar. We sometimes we don't think it's profound or anything. So how is RNT Fitness or the methodology you've created? I mean, everyone knows this. You just told everyone this. Yeah. How come everyone's not walking around with a six-pack?
Yeah, because getting it done is another thing. I can give you giving the blueprint out is one thing. The whole blueprint's in the book. If you follow the book, you don't need to do anything else. The blueprint's in the book, but everything's in execution. Execution is king, right? And what we have to do is find every way we can to create an environment of execution, an environment of high performance. And this is why, I talk about non-negotiables. Another thing, which I think helps so many people, is the concept of decision fatigue. As high performers, we're making decisions all the time, especially in our career. We've always got to make a number of decisions a day. But there's only a finite amount of decisions you can make each day. And if you're spending time worrying about whether you're going to eat chicken or turkey, if you're going to train at 6 p.m. or 9 p.m., if you're going to have your water, you're going to have 2 liters or 3 liters, all these mini decisions, what's going to happen when you get to the end of the day? You're going to have no decisions you're going to have no quality decisions left. So when you get to the end of the day, you've had a hard day at work, and you haven't cooked anything, do you think you're going to spend time cooking chicken or rice, or do you think you're going to just call up a pizza takeaway? And I think that's where the execution element comes, because you're not setting yourself up for success. And once you know what your non-negotiables are, it's about making it as foolproof as possible and taking as much of the decision out as possible, so you can execute against it.
So when I went through the program, what I learned was really that it's creating this environment, like your environment reinforces or your good behaviors or your bad behaviors. And what you've allowed your clients to do is construct an environment that's proactive, that's triggering these good behaviors. Plus, I think what I found most important in anything, whether it's coaching, whether it's training or any kind of program, is professional accountability. Can you speak on how critical that is for people's success?
Yeah, I think you need to have all three layers of accountability covered. I think self-accountability comes through the moment that you realize you need to change, right? So you have a reason for doing this, your why and why you're doing this, and you can up the ante on self-accountability by taking pictures every week, by weighing yourself daily. For me, these are very strong self-accountability measures to hold yourself to high standards. Everyone should be able to take a picture of themselves and look at it and think, do I need to improve or not? Because your body is a representation of your mind. Your body's your scorecard. So that's the first level is your self-accountability. Then you've got peer accountability, which is surrounding yourself with other people on this journey. And I think as high performers, surrounding yourself with other high performers who are also trying to achieve the same thing is a critical part of this, because your environment dictates your performance. And the more you hear the adage of you are the average of the five people and all these things, but it's true, right? And especially for fitness, because how many people struggle to achieve their fitness goals because their social circles go against them and make it really hard for them? When you go to an event and everyone's drinking beers and you either feel peer pressure or you feel embarrassed or people take the piss out of you. It makes things harder. If you have high performers who are also on this journey together, it becomes easier to live a healthy and fit lifestyle. And then last of all, you have a coach or professional expert level accountability. And this is the person that the person or the team that calls you out on your bullshit, that gets rid of the excuses and gives you the blueprint of what's to come on the journey and helps you get unstuck when you do get stuck, helps you stop making silly decisions. And also, if you're a great example, one of the things you told me when we spoke on our podcast, you said RNT helped you turn decades into days. And that's what professional accountability can do, because it gets rid of the guesswork and it stops you from paralysis by analysis, which is another thing so many high performers feel guilty of, because they think, it's too simple, so let me try and complicate it in any way I can. 3 to 5 weight training sessions sounds too simple. Let me try and do 6 days a week that this flex bodybuilder does this month. And next month, I'm going to mix it all up and try something different. And next thing you know, you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting anywhere, because the hardest thing is to keep it simple. So having all three layers of those accountability is super critical for anyone getting results. And that's ultimately, once you have the blueprint, accountability is what will drive the execution.
I've heard of accountability, obviously, and the professional accountability is where a lot of people focus on. But guys, I hope you picked up what he just said: self accountability, then peer accountability, then professional accountability. You need the first two before you get the third one. And your body is your scorecard. You look at anybody when they stand up without their clothes on, you can tell, is their body a priority or not? Because if they're taking decisions and actions, their body will transform. If they neglect, then their body will, devolve. So that's awesome, bro. I always ask this to some of my guests, and I want to ask this to you. In the last 5 years, what new beliefs, behavior, habit, or strategy has really improved your life?
That's a great question. What belief, strategy, or habit has changed my life in the last 5 years? I can take it from a few different angles if you don't mind.
Go for it, brother.
From a business perspective, I'd say the biggest one has been really trying to protect my energy by only doing creative, productive on the business work in the morning, and being very intentional about not having meetings, emails, and Slack until I've done what's most important. And for me, I read it in the book, The One Thing, which had a real profound impact in the way I worked. And it says something like, you're a maker in the morning and a manager in the afternoon. And for me, that just really helped, because now whenever it comes to podcasts, meetings, I know for me, it's not even a decision. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be in the afternoon. And I think that one thing in my business has really transformed the way I work. And then coupled to that, I think a belief, I don't know if this is a belief or more of an understanding of myself, because I've really tried to understand what puts me in flow and what doesn't put me in flow. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but there's certain things where you'll find yourself moving on the calendar all the time. You're procrastinating with it. You're moving on the calendar. You're half in it. You're half multitasking. You're just not really there. And you probably need to just delegate that, or you need to stop doing it, or just automate it, right? Dump, delegate, automate is what one of my mentors told me. but then also tuning into what makes my feet go numb, what makes me completely immersed into the experience where I lose body sensations. Then I'm like, oh, I need to do a lot more of that because that's where I can add the most value. And I think, I don't know if that's a habit or a belief or a thought process, but it's just, I think it's a self-awareness that as high performers, we need to understand what we're really good at. And one thing I keep asking myself a lot in the last 1 to 2 years is like, how can I offer the most value in the company I'm in, or in the business I'm in, instead of like, what's my role? Because you have a team, right? And I have a team as well. And it's like, how can I get out of the way of a team so they can do their thing? And where do I add the most value? And it's a really difficult question sometimes. Maybe it's potentially just a stage on the journey I'm at. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but it's a difficult question I keep trying to ask myself because it takes a lot of self-awareness of understanding like, where am I playing in this team? And where do I give the most value? And then coupled with that, it's like, okay, well then what brings me the most joy in that? And what do I just need to get rid of? And I think that sort of habit, thought process, belief is really it's changed my life in many ways in the last few years. But I think it's also like, I'm excited to see where that's going to take me in the next 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, my friend. Yeah, one of my favorite books is also The One Thing, again, by Gary Keller. So I'm glad you brought that up. Great, phenomenal book. But the maker in the morning, a manager in the afternoon. That's a great philosophy for a lot of these people listening. You are, for most people, their creative genius, their energies are really highest in that morning, and so you want to use it for high value tasks, and then sort of where you can sort of turn your brain off and do a little bit more mundane things. That's usually in the afternoon. And I like the fact that your decision making paradigm has shifted. Sounds like over the last couple of years. And allocation of energies and resources. Like, where is Akash really, like, if he goes here, boom, the company explodes. Boom, he's really creative. Boom, the value he gives to the world increases. That's where you want to find, and that's like, I guess, intersecting between flow state and triaging tasks and triaging roles and saying, hey, if I can, automate, delegate, delete, give it to other folks, and where do I shine? So that's great. So you figure out your zone of genius. And was it difficult? I mean, you were probably coaching people one-on-one. You're doing all these things before, and you're doing so many things, and now you've been giving things away to others so you can focus on that creative genius. So what is that to you now? What is your zone of genius?
Well, this is what I'm sort of like. I mean, doing things like this is one of them. Raising them. I get very excited talking about what we do, and I think communication is one of them, when it's written or in video. I think that's one area, but I think it's also just leading the team and being there for the team who, driving. I'm very much ahead of the clouds visionary type of guy, and I'm always thinking like, where can we build this product, right? Where can we build this service? And then I'm like, but then the actual project manager of it, that's not me. Like, I remember when we did the rebrand last year, one feedback one of the team said to me was, Akash, can we hire a project manager? Because you weren't very good at executing it. So I was like, yeah, well noted. And believe me, I completely understand it. And here's something that might be of value to your listeners is, I think the best time to really tune into this is when you're actually going through a body transformation. Because when you're restricting on calories and you're very high on activity and you've got a lot of accountability around what you're doing and hitting a certain level of condition, your tolerance for BS goes through the roof, goes through the floor, right? You just can't tolerate anything, and you become very essentialist in the way you deal with your energy and your behaviors. So, for example, right now I'm on a shred and I'm trying to get into ridiculous condition, and the what comes with low body fat is, you just don't want to do anything you don't want to do. But what I'm doing now is I'm tuning into that. So when do I feel like really like, oh, I just don't want to do this? And then I know, this is something I shouldn't even be doing. And it's a really good way. It's a good filter of like, firstly, from a work perspective, but also when you get a social invite, you fancy going there? I'm like, oh, do I really want to spend time with that person? And it's a good way to audit your life. And I think we live our lives as, if we're high performers, we have a lot of things going on, right? There's always so many opportunities. There's things we can go to. The hardest thing is knowing what to say no to, what to say yes to. When you're going through a body transformation, it's such an easy way to filter out what you should and should be doing. And that's something I think is a hidden benefit that many people don't realize, that becomes more than just the physical. And that's where you can use the physical as a vehicle to really make changes in your life.
That's brilliant, man. I love that. One of the paradigms I like to do is like, if things are not a hell yes, then it automatically becomes a no, right? It has to be like, I'm really pumped. This is something for sure. So if you're wishy-washy or it's even marginal, we have so limited time on this earth and some limited time to do what we need to do, that we can't do obligations and trivialities. We need to do,
But
major
the thing
things.
is, where people struggle is actually breaking out of that. And I think that's where a process of restriction, especially in calories and body fat, it can be a real eye opener for many people.
I love how you're using like, this sort of not fasting state, but this kind of like, altered nutritional state as almost a barometer to isolate, joyous activities from, less
Absolutely.
high energy activities. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
That's
one of the
awesome.
best things people can do.
I like that, man. That's great. You know what? Let me ask you this. How has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? And if you happen to have a favorite failure, could you share with the audience?
Say a parent failure.
Yeah. Or you thought you failed, but maybe it ended up being,
Well, the one I always come back to is when I was 17 years old, and I see it as I count it as like a failure that changed my life. But it was I was always destined to be a lawyer, right? I wanted to follow my father's footsteps and study law. And outside of the fact that I discovered the gym and I got dragged into the gym, and I realized like, wow, this is where I want to be at in the rest of my life. I also didn't do well in my grades that year. I couldn't get the grades that I needed for law school anyway. So for me, and I remember getting those results because this was before I discovered the gym, and I got those results, and I thought to myself, how am I gonna become a lawyer? I've not, I didn't fail my grades, but the grades would have got me into, not the schools I wanted to get into. And then it was only a few weeks later that I discovered the gym, and then it was a few months later where I discovered I actually want to change my career. But for me, it was that failure point. I look back and think it was one of the many sort of dominoes that led to where I am now. And for me, it was just a case of, at the time, it was a disaster. I look back and I thought, well, it's a blessing in disguise because it allowed me to kind of fall into this path a lot easier, which has been the best decision I ever made.
That's awesome, man. Do you ever feel overwhelmed, unfocused, or lost? And how do you get your drive and your determination back? I know there are times in your training that you've fallen off the wagon, and you've talked about it in your book. You've also talked about now sometimes in business there's some plateaus. How do you stay focused on your North Star? And what advice would you have for these high performers in both their nutritional strategies and their life business strategy?
What I've tried to do a lot more recently with business that's really helped is keeping that North Star super visible, but also always having mentors around me to hold me to that. But actually, the person who does this more than anyone is my wife. So she's very clear of what I want to achieve. She's involved in the business in certain ways as well. And I say to her, whenever I'm overwhelmed, look, I just need to run my thought process through with you. And the good news is she gives me the hardest truths and calls me out my BS all the times. and so she's literally my filter. She'll say, look, Akash, don't worry about this now. This is not something for now. Because my biggest problem is going too far in the future. Yes. Be like, I'm worrying about something like it's not even happened, right? And it's like, yeah, we could try this in that year or try this model in that. She's like, just focus on now. You got all these things to focus on now. And I think that's probably the best way I actually deal with my overwhelm, is vocalizing it to people that will give me raw, honest truth. So I think that the bigger lesson there is to have people around you, whether it's your wife or a mentor or an associate, someone who understands the business, understands where you want to go, and then isn't scared to tell you how it is. It's probably something similar in nutrition and training, is having people around you, holding yourself to high standards. And I think whenever I've fallen off so in those experiences that you're referring to in the book in 2014, where I won a bodybuilding show, then I went on an all-inclusive, rebounded 13 kilos in 7 weeks. Crazy, right? But it taught me how to come out of dieting properly. But what did I do? What did I do when I reflect back? What things I stopped doing? I stopped taking pictures. I stopped weighing myself, and I basically stopped having any sort of professional accountability. So all those accountability mechanisms that got me into shape, I suddenly just decided actually I don't need them. And I think that's where people go wrong. And that's why I still weigh myself regularly. I still take pictures every single week, because to me, it's not an obsessive or anything like that. It's just standards. And I hold myself to high standards. Health and fitness is a high priority. If I'm taking pictures every single week, I'm seeing visibly, am I in control of my health and fitness? And if it's sliding out of control, then something else is up, and that needs to be addressed.
And as you know, as we start to wrap up here, here's the question that a lot of the doctors, you know, I coach, or that listen to the podcast, they come to me with, hey, they're like, Akash, what's the number one reason, doctors struggle with their health and energy after the age of 35? Like, this is, they've achieved so much success. They even exercise. They go to Orange Theory, they go to CrossFit, they do things, but they're not at the level they want. Their digestion is off. Their energy is still not where they want to be. They come home tired. And I know a lot of people still work out. They have Pelotons at home. They have everything. What's holding them back? Why are they not at their ultimate vitality, ultimate transformation, ultimate health?
I think with a lot of doctors, what I found, having worked with many MDs, is they might be doing a lot of things, but they're rarely doing it properly, and they're rarely in good body composition. They're very in good body composition range. They tend to, the ones I have worked with, they're doing a lot of the biohacking. They're doing a lot of the supposed right things. They're training. They're attending all these classes. They're doing so much, right? But when you look at their pictures, I'm like, are you actually doing anything? Because they're not in shape, and they're not in good healthy body composition range from a performance mindset range. They might be in a good BMI, but I'm saying from a high performance, high cognition, high energy perspective, they need to get leaner. That's where I think most of the issues actually lie. And if they actually simplify, work hard on the right things, and actually dial back a bit, because they're probably doing too much, sleep more, they will achieve the right body composition to then give them the energy that they want.
Yeah,
I think you can attest to that.
I can attest to that, because I used to work out 6 days a week, and when I dropped to 4, actually gained muscle, had more energy, and I had more, vitality. And a lot of people say, hey, I'm vegan, I'm vegetarian, I can't lift weights, or I don't have protein sources. So I think we'll start wrapping up here with this question, because this is a new transformation for Mr. Akash here. He has shown the world how to become vegan bodybuilder or vegan muscle building strategy. So can you share with the audience about some of the latest strategies you've started unlocking?
Yeah, so I cut out meat in August 2021. In fact, you said the biggest thing I've changed has probably been that. Cut out meat, going from a kilo of meat a day to now cutting it out, and then went fully vegan January 1st. I feel better than I've ever felt before. I'm shocked at the strength gains I'm making. I can't believe all the myths I had around veganism and vegetarian and plant-based diets are all being shattered every single week. And the biggest things I would say are, we don't need as much protein as we think we do. We can do well on 0.8 grams per pound, which isn't as much as the old bodybuilding magazines used to say you need 2 grams of protein per pound. 0.8 is more than enough. I think it's now easier than ever to follow a vegan diet and still get a good amount of protein. I think you should still focus on fruits, vegetables, legumes, beans, and good sources of soy, and some protein powder, and you can do everything you can achieve everything you want. And I think people who are interested, just because I think we're wrapping up, but for those who are interested, just follow my Road to Vegan Shredded YouTube series, and it'll be a very insightful documentary series on what it's like from a performance, fitness, health perspective. Because I think what a lot of stuff on veganism has been discussed is ethics, and mainly ethics, where what's been missing is something for fitness, in that we understand the ethical and environmental and climate change concerns, but when someone says, but I don't want to lose my fitness gains, that's where this documentary will be really useful.
That's awesome, guys. That's called Road to Vegan Shredded. It's a YouTube series that Akash is doing to document the journey, because this is a really important piece. there's a lot of people who are interested in being healthy, but being healthy and fit is a very rare combination. And I think Akash is really leading the field in this. So thank you, brother. That was awesome. And, I'm sure you're going to have a ton of people who are interested in either working with you, signing up with you. How do they work with you, man?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
Yeah.
To find out more, go to www.rntfitness.com, which I'm sure you can put in the show notes. Check out the book, Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life. Follow me on Instagram at Akash Vaghela or at RNT_fitness. And just reach out if you've got any way I can help. If you've got any questions, just drop me a DM, and I'd love to help you.
Guys, there you have it, man. If you listen to this advice, you will be healthy, fit, a high performer, and hopefully one day shredded. So follow the advice. All the information is in the show notes below. Akash, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Limitless MD. If you found value from this episode, I encourage you to share this episode with a friend and let me know by leaving a review. For more information, make sure you check out the links in the show notes below or simply visit vikramraya.com. So until next time, my friends, be phenomenal.